in
This
attendance?
conference will now be recorded.
Yeah. We have a roll call.
Cook,
Here.
Emmett,
Is that me?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm here. It's breaking up a little bit.
okay. Udink, Tony,
Yes.
McDougal,
Yes.
Eubank is here.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Eubank is here.
Okay, yeah, I got it. I called his name, I don't know if he heard me. Okay. Is that everyone? Yes,
just not Mr. Maderis is absent, correct?
correct.
Has everybody received the minutes from our last meeting?
Yes,
Yes.
move to approve.
No, is there any corrections?
Somebody's cuckoo clock, huh?
Mine.
I have a correction if no one else does.
Okay,
On page 3, Jason was talking about the surface, using the milled chip from asphalt when they mill off the roadway, and we have it here, chip and seal. Chip and seal is something different. Chip and seal is basically asphalt and then scattering the rock on top. I don't know the exact nomenclature for what he's talking about, but it's the same thing as Mr. Myers was talking about when he proposed his units.
The only thing I can tell you is that he did say chip and seal.
Well, Jason, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Am I correct?
At that
Am I
meeting-
correct? We're talking about the milling chips from asphalt when they clean off the roadways?
Yes. At that meeting, I did say chip and seal, but it got taken over. I mean, everybody thought that was the mill chips, and I don't know. I didn't know the difference between them at that time.
Well, is it all right with you if we change it to mill chips?
It is
I think
with
that
me.
that's not what was said.
Right, I think we have to keep the minutes the way that they were said. We can certainly in these minutes have a clarification for this meeting, but at that meeting, that's at least what it was called. So I think we then need to clarify it at this meeting.
So then let's go down to 2 paragraphs, and it says, I agree that chip and seal will allow, and I didn't agree for that. But
Okay,
I don't want it to be brought up sometime in the future that we've got to get a tar wagon in there and everything, and it's not what it is. Okay, just so everybody understands.
Well, let's modify what you said then, Chuck.
Yeah, okay.
yeah, because if you didn't say that, that's fine.
I
What did you say?
just said I agree that it would allow for the rainwater to absorb rather than run off.
But what would
That's the
allow
other
for
type
the
of
rain?
surface, right?
The surface.
Yeah, go ahead and say right now what the surface you think would allow the rainwater to absorb.
I agree that the mill chip surface would allow for the rainwater to absorb rather than the solid surface of the pavement.
Let's change it to that then. What you're saying.
That's
in the
fine.
minutes. Okay. Is that okay, Mary?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, is there a motion?
Move to approve as amended.
As amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I ask who seconded? I missed it, sorry.
Sure.
Who?
I'm sorry, I still didn't catch it. It was muffled.
Oh, like Randy.
Or maybe two of us did.
Who do you
No, I
have
didn't.
down as Kelly? That's what
I
matters.
didn't get either.
Bill Emmert made the motion. I got that.
Okay.
The second,
I think I seconded it along with Irv at the same time.
okay. So we'll say Dennis McDougal this time. Is that okay, Kelly?
Yeah.
You're the official taker. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any opposition to the motion? I got the ayes, but no nays.
And does anybody know where Frank went? Because he's
He
not
lost
on anymore.
connection. He lost connection. He's trying to reconnect.
Okay.
Are we ready to proceed?
I believe so, unless we want to wait just a second to see if Frank gets back on.
Where'd he go?
Kelly said he lost connection and he was trying to get
my.
back on.
Well,
I guess we
can
can
ask if-
go on and pick him up, I guess. We can catch him up.
Yeah. Anybody have any conflict of interest?
Yep.
No.
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 Okay, none confirmed. I'll read the public comment from Mr. Seton. You're not on, are you, Terry?
No, he didn't check in.
No.
Okay. Well, I might stumble a little bit because it's hard to decipher this, but I went over it with him. I think I can do a fairly good job. It says zoning gave him zone for a tree business on one side. We have storage back there not secured. Have lived and paid taxes for 30 years. 3 years ago, the round property was inherited and bought. Now we have one tree business, one parentheses, private business, and one use storage. Both sides have no regard for ours or that they are in our backyard. I am disabled and wife has had cancer. This is our vacation, our yard. Please both have lived here for whole lives. Do not let them do this. Vote no vote.
I think it says wait on vote.
No,
No?
I know it's, well, it could say wait or yeah, maybe it is wait on vote. Well, the gist of the complaint, I talked to him extensively on this, and his main problem is he thinks he's going to be surrounded by business, and there's somebody.
That's Frank.
It's Frank. I was able to dial in.
And his biggest complaint was the garage across the street on Swift that was originally a garage and it became a non-conforming use, therefore it has to revert back to the two-family district and it shouldn't be used as a garage. And evidently the gentleman that claims it's for his own personal use, but Mr. Sitton said he's doing a lot of business there. So I asked him, let's separate this from your complaint. I understand your complaint, but we can take care of this right now because if he's violation, we can take care of it. So actually, Mr. Or our compliance officer's already been trying to find the fellow, and he's hung a notice on his door. So then I explained at length what was to do with the storage units, and that his concerns was light and noise and round-the-clock operation. And I told him this is exactly what the zoning board is thinking, and we're looking at the same situations as you're talking about. So whether he will continue to complain or not, but I'll keep him updated on what happened tonight, and he can go from that point on. Any questions?
No.
Okay, well, then let's move on to Mr. Ackerman's information that he sent. And he's on, and if there's any questions, we can ask him. He sent in some lighting, and that I thought looked pretty good, but Jason, you might want to explain to the board what you got for lighting.
Those are solar powered. They wouldn't be, they point down like we talked about, not out. They're dimmer all the time. They're on all the time dimly, and then they brighten up for motion. So it's not like it's off and then snaps on if somebody walks. It just brightens up. But they do point down like we had talked about in the last meeting.
Do they have a covering or a shield over the top that comes over the sides to direct the light so it can only go down?
Yeah, I mean, it's directed down. It's a LED, so it's pointed down, yes.
But Jason,
is it open on the side so the light would also go away from the lamp to the side?
I mean,
Jason, aren't these?
I was just gonna. Oh, go ahead, Chuck.
Aren't these lights just hung just above the door? They're not above the
Correct.
rooftop?
Correct.
Okay.
And the light itself is inset into, so it is surrounded. It does have covering around it, and it directs the light down. Now there is a radius of light on the ground, say a radius of 15 feet. I think it covers. By the literature there.
Okay.
Jason, this is Frank. I'm looking at on my phone for some solar lights. Is it kind of like a rectangular shape where it's got like a rectangular lens, and the lens just points down?
That's right.
Okay.
They're LED, yep, rectangular pointing down. The solar panels
it's almost
on the
like
top of it.
It's almost like you have an interior car light that faces straight down, and you push the button up above,
Right.
and it shines straight down, or like when you're in an airplane.
Correct.
Right. So it would come straight down. It doesn't go up.
Correct.
Okay.
I understand it doesn't go this one up, it goes sideways.
Right.
And I understand the further down it's going to go out, but at the light itself, it would be covered all the way around the light. So if the light was 6 feet off the ground and I was looking at 6 foot height, I would not see the light bulb itself. There would be a shield all the way around it.
I guess no, I wouldn't say that.
Okay. How high on the building are you planning on putting the fixture?
Top of the door height. What is that?
Probably 7 or 8 feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, what do you think, or what's everybody think about having a fence that's 8 foot tall?
Right.
That way you don't see the lights from the adjoining property.
I would say if that would block,
Also some landscaping around the fence, since it's the people's backyard.
my position is if we have a fence that's tall enough to block the light, that would hopefully satisfy the property owner. Because I think that was one of our concerns was the light would, carry into their yard and into their house. If we have an 8-foot fence, I'm fine with that.
Because if
Well,
the lights are 8 feet in the air, a 6-foot fence isn't going to stop me from seeing it in my backyard or my house. And I also have concerns about the lights coming on and off. Are the dim lights that are the constant lights not bright enough for safety?
They're bright enough, yeah. I don't have trying to bring up the brochure here of them.
Then,
'Cause I ordered one.
Jason, how many are they on the ends of the building or on the sides?
Well, I thought that it would show enough on the ends to have, have them be a corner
Okay.
on the ends, kind of be both ways that way. So one on each corner, and then however many in the middle to cover, so it's lit up every, 15, 20 feet.
Well, don't you have in your letter 16 lights per building?
Yeah. However,
To me.
maybe I've got the wrong. I guess however many lights are necessary.
According to what he is in the literature, can you see that light?
Okay.
That's what he's talking about, according to what the number that's in the.
Can you put that back up, Randy?
Sure.
Okay, so like if we put that light and made it horizontal as opposed to angling up, then that would stop people from seeing it from the side.
Correct.
Exactly.
Illuminated area says 290 square feet. What is that?
Randy, what did you look under that brought that up? 'Cause maybe we could print something like that and have it part of the minutes.
I just did a search. It's actually on Amazon.
Would you
That's right.
you search under just the
I just did a in the sheet that I got. It says a Tinkus IP65, and I just did that.
okay.
They're 10 watts. All.
6,000 lumens.
%, brightness is maintained when no motion, and then you go to 10 watts when motion is detected. Or
But the
100%
brightness would be the lumens, I think, right, Randy?
Huh?
The brightness of the light would be lumens, not necessarily watts. Because an LED can be very bright with low wattage.
How many lumens? Again, how many lumens?
6,000.
6,000
Yeah.
per fixture.
Per fixture.
That seems like it might be kind of bright. I'm not positive. So my whole problem is the
No,
neighbors.
I'm sorry, they're only 1,500 lumens, the one I bought. The 10 water is 1,500 lumens.
Oh.
That's more like it. Yeah.
This one says 6,000 lumens.
Randy, they may come in different wattages.
Yeah, it lets you choose. Last purchase, March 11th, I bought a 10 water. That was my intention. Thought I sent the receipt for it, but maybe it got the wrong one.
Because
10 watts is
go ahead, sorry.
10 watts is 1,500 lumens. It's 20% brightness when nobody's around, and then it jumps to 100. And the reason I thought that would be good is then it's not dark and lighting up, because that would be noticeable. But this allows somebody to actually use their unit without it being too dim.
Well,
But
what's the purpose of the light for the tenant?
Just to be able to get into their, yes.
Any light inside the unit would be in the unit, right?
Now this is outside, so you can see your lock to get your door open.
Right, but that's all you need is to be able to see the lock, so that shouldn't have to be that bright. If you want to see your property, those lights could be in the unit.
There is no lights in the unit.
That's right.
Why couldn't we put lights in the unit so there's not so much light outside?
Don't you have to have light outside for safety reasons?
Right. I think that would be my thought, is you want to have lights outside for safety and keep vandals from showing up on the property.
Correct. Are you saying 1,500 lumens is too bright?
I'm just questioning it. You know, I'm concerned about the light bothering the people to the south.
I don't think 1,500 would be too bright, Bill.
If you got
1,500 is not very bright.
10 watts of power, it isn't very bright.
No,
well,
they're not.
I don't think the watts really make a difference with LEDs. They can be very bright with low wattage. So I think the lumens is what's pertinent.
And these have the least amount of lumens.
1,500 would be, Randy, so you might very well be right. I'm just trying to get the lights low enough and directed down so it doesn't bother the people to the south.
A standard, shop light is 3,000 to 4,500 lumens.
Are you talking like a fluorescent light, or?
It's, well, the LED for comparable to fluorescence.
Okay,
are usually,
when you said shop, I wasn't sure. Okay.
It looks like a fluorescent shop light.
Okay.
But it's actually got LEDs in it. And I've got them in my shop, and they're either 3,000 or 4,500 lumens. And they're, to light up my, 24 by 26 shop, I've got 6 of them in there to light it up good.
Okay. So that's why you're saying 1,500 wouldn't be so much by itself.
Right.
But then 16 lamps on each building seems like a lot to me. I'm just throwing that out too.
I think it was 16 total, was it not, Jason? It was 8 on each building?
Yes. Yes.
His letter says 16, I think.
8 aside. I'm trying to do the math now. It's 120 feet. They're about 18 feet raised.
This says there's approximately 16 lights per building.
Okay.
That's both sides.
Yes, it's 3 or 4 lights along on the long sides of the building.
they cover 17-foot radius. So if it's a 120-foot long building, 7, if you had the corners, it's 30 foot wide. So if there was one on each corner, and then 5 in the middle, to make 7 down each side, 14 lights per building. Might not need that on the other building, actually. Maybe one stretch down one building is enough for both buildings in the middle. So that'd be 14 plus 7, 21 lights. I think we'll cover them.
Not 16 per building anymore. Is
Right,
that right?
21 total, according to my math, will cover enough, make enough lighting for everything.
Okay.
How
Because
far is
17
the width between the buildings, Jason?
20 feet. So 17, I mean, if we're worried about it, otherwise 5 more down that other building would be 26 total. But I was kind of hoping those would cover that whole 20-foot middle.
I think the important thing is that they, like Mr. Emmert said, that they shine downward. And Mr. Cook showed us the picture there, which I'm not certain from what I saw, but it looks as if they may have some adjustment to angle it. And so
Yeah, I
if
don't
they're
think there was anything angle-wise on these.
I can do anything. I can make a bracket that's angled.
so that they're directed more toward the side of the building itself as opposed to out into.
So they're down, parallel to the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
Parallel, or maybe even better, down a little bit, like Irv says, then it's pointing at the building, which stops it from going up.
Right.
Again, my whole concern is the people living in the house to the south. They've been living there. I would hate for a business to intrude upon their enjoying their backyard and their home. But I understand there's business zoning around them, so I can't say that I'm totally against it, but I think we need to look at their concerns.
What if it's possible to put? What if it's
Can you put the lights
possible
on
to
the
put
fence? Can you put the lights
like
on the
I said-
fence? Like, are the buildings going east, west, or north, south?
North, south.
South.
There's going to have to be a large unpierced fence between the end of the buildings and Mr. Sutton's house also.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, we got the height of the fence. It has to be something light can't go through. And should there be some landscaping to make it look like a landscaped backyard for them, as opposed to just if we just have a fence and the fence isn't maintained, does that turn it into an eyesore?
Well, when I told Mr. Sutton that there would have to be a unpierced fence, he was very happy about that.
Okay.
I have a question about the fence.
Yes.
They have a chain link there now, a 4-foot chain link with shrubs and things coming out of it as it is. Would that, if they leave that, I know the ordinance says, I believe it says that the finished side has to go towards the neighbor, which is fine, but it makes the fence hard to build when you're going right up against a chain link fence. It's not impossible. Maybe we'd have to build it on the ground and tip it up into the holes. I don't know. It's just not normally how it's done. That
fence doesn't have to be on the lot line. You could back it on your property a little.
Okay.
And in fact, that's what our ordinance states, is that you cannot butt it up on the property line without the permission of the next door neighbor. I think, Mary, that's right.
Correct, and I believe that the height is 6 feet, so
Right.
you would have to, make a variance for that if that was desired.
That's what I discussed with Jason. He asked what our height was in our ordinance, and I said, well, in this case, we might have to go a little higher than that in order to block the light from the headlights.
Yep.
Well, all I'm saying is if our fence is, okay, I'd have to figure out, because that driveway's there, I'd have to figure out how we could have enough room between there to maintain, like you're talking about, growth between that chain link and the wood fence. His chain link fence is right on the property line, is what I'm getting at, and so I'll have to have some area to be able to maintain that.
Well, could you have could you have 1.5 feet between your fence and his fence?
Yeah,
that would give you room enough to walk down there with a string trimmer.
Well, you could also move your driveway a little bit to the north. I mean, you've got the whole property. You got all your property. You can put it where you want.
No, there's a drainage inlet that on the street that he has to cross. It's a set position.
Yeah.
The driveway crosses the ditch there.
On the
but I'm
west
sure
lot
there's
line?
something that can be figured out.
Are you
on the west lot line,
it,
Chuck?
It can be figured out.
Is the drainage just on the west lot line that you're talking about?
On the west line, there's an inlet box for the drain that goes across the road then and out into the field.
Well, where is that on Swift Street?
Pardon me?
You're talking about on Swift Street, right?
On Swift Street, yep.
And is it on the corner down on Main, or is it where his driveway is?
His driveway.
So it's on the south end of the lot.
South end
on
of
Swift
the property.
Street.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's basically where the property lines meet then. His property and the city.
I'm not sure of that. I didn't pay any attention to that. I just know where the box is.
Okay.
Okay, have we talked the lighting through thoroughly now, and everybody's got their concerns?
Well, I guess those are the concerns. It's just how do we address them? How do we put requirements in a special use to make sure what we want? We can always say the height of the fence. We can say the light can't go through it. You know, the lights, we can say how high the light fixtures can be on the buildings. We can limit that. If we're going to limit the brightness, I think we almost have to say lumens.
Yeah, we can do that.
Try to get that particular.
And of course, I think the concept is fairly clear at the moment, and we can also refine it when we write it into the ordinance, you know. Hello?
Yeah.
Yep, just want to make sure though that you're all on the same page with the acronyms so that we're not then putting something in an ordinance that is totally outside what they were expecting. So I think Mr. Emmert's correct. We got to hammer this, maybe not tonight, but we have to really hammer out what it's going to be.
That's what I said. That's the concept. If we can pretty much agree with what's happening here, the nitty-gritty details can be taken care of at the meeting that the ordinance is written. And do as you want.
What's everybody think about an 8-foot fence? That's taller than normal. but it really, I don't think it should have that much of a negative impact on the Sitton's property. Actually, wouldn't it give them more of a nice
Privacy.
privacy fence?
Absolutely. I think that's what they want. They want privacy.
Can I come in here a second? This is Jason again. I would like, or I think it would help them as well if that privacy fence went up our property to the south, you know, where it would 90 degree at the end of his fence and then up his fence. If that could all be 8 foot, I think some of this, you know, that would more separate him privacy wise from us. As long as we were doing 8 foot anyway, east to west, I'd like to do north to south up my current property along my shop. Chuck, you know where I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
So you're talking on the east side of your property?
West side.
West side.
Right.
It'd be on the east side of the north corner of Sitton's property.
Yep.
Yes.
His
The fence would
shop.
go.
And that would go all the way up to then Main Street? Or towards Main?
No.
No. I just mean the privacy fence along the north side of Sitton's would then, at the east end of that privacy fence, would do a 90 degree and head south.
South.
South, okay.
South towards the house.
Soper Street.
Yeah.
It'd make an L around their house.
About how far, Jason?
Well, we could run it all the way to Soper Street. I don't mind paying for all that if it helps him, but I don't care if it only went to the front of my shop, being the north side, whatever would be approved. I could run that thing all the way to Soper Street if it would help.
Well, your building wall is there right now. You know, the wall of your building is.
How much of that is needed though to block out the light for the Sittons?
Oh.
I guess my concern is that if we can't start putting
Only
up
the
8-foot fences.
All the way to the street. I agree. If we just went to their building, the building's already there.
Right.
Well, would you allow the Sittons to tie their fence into yours?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Would you allow the Sittons to tie their chain link fence into your privacy fence? They could just take their chain link down on the north side and just have chain link on the side, and they still have a fenced in yard, but there's only one fence on the north property line. Their north property line, your south.
Would just be our fence, you're saying?
On the south, on your south line, their north line. I wonder
if it was just our fence and not the chain link.
Sittons to see what they think about that.
Right.
Well, I think we should probably not mess with the Sittons. They're pretty happy with what they got, and that's just basically what they like to keep.
Okay. I was just trying to suggest a way to give them more privacy. We can just stick to the fence going along the driveway there. That's fine too.
Is there a way we can get the Sittons input on this?
Pardon me?
Is there a way that we could get the Sittons input on what we're thinking about? They might have some other ideas that might alter requirements that I might want.
Well, you know, we got the public hearing coming up, and it'd be a good place to get everybody involved there then.
Okay.
But I think one of the best things to do is with this situation is one or two of us, someone besides me, but sit down with Terry and go over this a little bit. And I think you'll understand what we're trying to do, because it's basically what I discussed with him, and he seemed to be not objecting at all, that like as vociferous as he was, let's put it that way.
Chuck, why did you say someone other than you?
No, someone with me.
Okay, okay.
I could do that, Chuck.
Yeah, whatever, just so he knows that it's not just me talking, that it comes from, well, he knows it's coming from the village too, but it's better to have someone there to know exactly what's said.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay, are we at a
Chuck,
point where we can decide to put it out for public hearing?
Is it?
Did we have concern before about the driveway, or what the material was going to be?
What was meant to be was the milled chips that come from milling off like the highway, they mill the asphalt off and then put new one down. That's what it was meant to be.
Okay.
And we changed my comment that I agreed that to that's what it should be.
Okay.
That's what we discussed. You remember we talked about it with Chucky Myers too, remember?
Yep, I do.
And then
Chuck, would that be a hard, compact surface that's not going to have dust or loose material on the top that would create dust?
Normally what they do.
It doesn't.
So it wouldn't be like gravel or anything. It'd
No.
be
It kind of
concrete.
compacts a little bit, Bill.
Okay.
Down at the end of Church Street, there's a driveway that's done in that.
Okay.
If you wanted to really look at something that's similar to it.
They put a layer over the gravel and then they roll it and compact, and it looks like blacktop when it's done, but it's not as solid as blacktop. It's more porous.
More porous, right?
But it's not loose material.
Right.
No. It actually makes a nice surface.
Okay, Mary, should we have our suggested requirements prior to the public hearing?
I think that would be helpful, because otherwise we're just going to keep going around and round. So that's why I've been trying to take pretty copious notes, and I thought what I would do is maybe circulate something just for added commentary, because I don't know that I got everything totally straight. I hope it did, and then people can just give feedback via email. And just because it sounds a little, for lack of a better term, loosey-goosey to me, that I don't know exactly what we're telling these people, that, or the Sittons, I think it's pronounced, that of what's planned. I understand about the fence, but it just would be nice, and maybe they understand it more, but so that they have something to look at, a picture, like I said, of the lamps, or a picture of what this surface would look like. Because if they're not familiar, I don't think that's going to be real meaningful to them otherwise.
And then I think it's a more productive public hearing too, because we're actually talking about, if the zoning change happens, here's how we're going to have special requirements.
Correct.
Yes.
Jason, do you have actually have one of those lights?
I have one up in my yard, yes.
Could you take a picture of it?
Can I? Yes.
Is it operational?
Yes.
So we can
is
drive
it-
by and see how bright it is.
You can all drive to my house right now.
Is it the same lumens
It's
as
in
the
my-
one that's proposed for these buildings?
Yes, it is the exact one I was
didn't
going to
get-
use. Yep. It's on my
So if I
flagpole.
go down Swift Street and turn into the alley, I will drive by your light?
No, my house is actually at 210 East Main Street, next to the water tower. That's where the light is right now.
Okay.
You can walk
on my
over there, Bill.
flagpole.
Okay. I'll drive by tonight.
But
Okay.
if somebody could, if Jason, if you could send a picture of that, maybe to Kelly, and then
Okay.
she can, that way we have it, so we've got something concrete to show
Can
everyone.
I get an email?
Yes.
I have her email, Jason, if you want it.
Okay. Okay. Just send it to me, Chuck.
I will.
It's on the
Jason,
website
are
as
you
well.
east or west of the water tower?
I am west of the water tower. One right to the west.
Right
Just
next
one.
to it?
Right next to it.
Okay, so you have the stump grinding business.
Yes.
Okay. And the light is where on your property?
On the flagpole in the front over my driveway.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I have another question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there concern about drainage on this property or how the
I-
runoff flows is there a storm sewer there?
There's two graded
Chuck.
inlets on the north end of the property. And you'll see that he furnishes a rough layout of the elevations, showing that the drainage would be going to the north side.
The north, okay.
And there's an inlet to on the northeast, little east of the northeast corner, and there's one right on the corner of Swift and Main. There are cast iron inlet, and there's a large drainage system underneath Main Street that dumps out into the field. Would be to the west of Swift Street and south of Main. And these feed into that. In addition, there's a outlet box that he goes over in his driveway. It has a hole coming from the south to drain into it. And there could also be a hole put in the north side and drain there. Why it never was, I don't know. But there's a ditch there, but there's no opening in the box.
Has the village engineer looked at it to see if it's sufficient to handle this water runoff?
I'm not aware that the village engineer has. Chad Insko did send a message to me this morning, and he did copy the village engineer, Seth Gronwald, on it, stating that with this development, it'd have to follow the UDO, and since it's a new site development. So if that's the case, the village would be looking at it, and one of the items they would look at is stormwater drainage.
Okay.
And an
Well-
additional question is are we too early, or has the fire department had a chance to look at access?
Jason, you
Again,
can
usually the fire department would look at that when the site
Yep.
plans are provided, right, Mary?
They
That's
already
correct.
have.
Jason's already talked to him. Jason, comment on it.
They have looked at it. I have word from Chuck about that. Everything was good to the drawing that I gave them now, which is more of a 3D drawing I'll also attach that to this email with the photo of the light. But with the drives that are there and everything, we were good. They were just concerned about overhang on the buildings, which they don't have. He asked that though, and that I have to put in a firewall because of the square footage of the building, which is not a problem either. That just makes the building separate, more or less, per the fire code. It in lieu of sprinklers.
Perfect.
But that is all approved by them, yes.
And Jason, is there any photographs or anything yet as what might be the contemplated fencing as far as what that would look like? That's
The
something you
fencing?
have or you can get for the fencing?
Yeah, I didn't go any further. I mean, 8 foot changes things because then, that isn't something you just buy at Menards or anything. So I would probably talk to a fencing, like Doc or somebody about that.
Right. I was just thinking
but-
if they could even just give you kind of samples again, just so we would be showing the citizens what possibly it would be.
Sure. I was thinking wood, but I don't even know what is. I mean, that's your best probably sound deadener, but I don't know what is available. 8 foot changes because everything's 6 foot at the box stores. So I'd probably have to talk to Doc.
Okay.
That is not a problem.
Unless you want to put the
Can do
lights
that.
lower.
What's that?
I said if you could get the lights lower, maybe we could live with a 6 foot fence. But the lights got to be below the fence height.
Yeah, I don't know how that'd turn out if it would be possible to put the lights between the doors. I was thinking about that while we were all talking about it. I would have to know. I have to see the distance between the doors. I'm sure there's space there for a light. I just can't say for sure because I've just begun talking with the building manufacturer actually today. But yeah, that would make them lower.
If you could come up with a list of requirements that we've talked about, and then we could circulate it and fine tune that. So at any public hearing, we would be able to specifically say, here are the restrictions that we want for this special use.
Correct. Because I mean, that's how I'm used to seeing it done at the county, that when the public comes in, they know basically in advance what at least is anticipated.
Right.
I can do that.
Thank you.
So at this point, are we able to schedule a public hearing?
That's a desire. Remember, just not less than 15 nor more than 30 days.
I'd like to pass the list around first, make sure that we have a good list of requirements that we agree to as a group. So we're not just throwing something together to right before the public hearing, or we show up at a public hearing unprepared with just general ideas.
I agree with that too, Bill. I think that's the better way to go. And once we have a consensus, then we can see where we're at on the calendar and then go ahead and schedule for a public hearing.
Because I anticipate, because Kelly, this, the recording, because this is one I would want to listen to the recording. The recording will be available probably like tomorrow, right? As far as when
it'll be ready. It'll be ready as soon as we're done. It comes as an email.
Okay. But then I think you post it on the website or something, right?
I have to get Eli's help to do that, yes, because it's such a big file.
So, but sometime tomorrow, maybe it would be posted, I would think.
I will have the recording tomorrow, but it might take Eli a little bit of time to upload it.
Okay. So I guess my point is that, I would just need probably a few days from when it's uploaded to at least get the first list circulated, and then get any commentary. Now, the other thing too is that we can decide, as far as, you don't have to have a special meeting just to set the public hearing. I mean, we can, Chuck and I can work on a date or whatever once we have everything else solidified. In terms of, my point being is, if everyone is comfortable with a list that happens before what would be our next zoning board meeting, and we can get everyone's schedule and just schedule a meeting.
But we'd have to have it done 15 days before.
Correct, not less than 15 nor more than 30.
Right.
That makes sense.
Oh,
Mary?
And Mary,
you-
Kelly can, go ahead, Kelly.
Oh, I was just going to say, I can email you the recording
okay.
if that's what you would like. It's more difficult for me to upload it, but I can certainly email it.
Okay. Just because then, I mean, I got a lot of notes here, but I think just listening to it again, hopefully I'll get some additional information. And then if we have, Jason, that documentation or information from you, I just think that visually that would help.
So the lights, and then I'll send you this better drawing that kind of lays the buildings out in the driveway. So I'll attach that to it as well, because it
Right.
sounds like you don't have that.
I do, yeah,
Okay.
I don't have that. And then anything that you then subsequently find out, either from dock fence, if you think it's going to end up at the higher level, or what other big box store fence you would get, just something to show what it's going to look like. I mean, there are a lot of different grades of non-porous fences. I just want the people to know what they're going to be looking at. They got some that look like popsicle sticks, and there are some that,
something
you know,
nicer.
are really what's true, or some that are, you know, just much more sophisticated, I guess.
Sure.
And Jason, I guess what I'm looking at, the restriction I would want would be the fence will be so many inches higher than the lights are on the building. So if you're saying they'd be 7 foot on the building, that's where I'm thinking an 8-foot fence.
Yeah, I think that would be best. Which I'm sure that is something I can talk to, you know, find out from Doc real easy.
Okay. But I think our restrictions are going to have to be based upon that. You know, the fence higher than the lights, as opposed to just saying it's got to be 8 foot or 7 foot or 6 foot.
Sure.
Because that takes care of the issue that I have, but it gives some flexibility there.
That makes
So you would say,
Because
you
this
would
is going
say,
to
Bill,
be a special use that anybody could use for that property if Jason sells it. So,
Right.
you know, I wanted to cover more broadly.
so Bill, something like the fence shall be at least 12 inches higher than the highest light fixture, but the fence shall be no higher than 8 feet or 9 feet in total height.
Or whatever, something like that. And the, you know, light will not be able to go through it. Is the word impervious? I think Mary, maybe. I don't know.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that way the cars driving down going south, their headlights aren't going to shine through the fence.
Got it.
So that's the type of restrictions I'm looking at, Mary. So if
Okay.
you throw something together, I'll help modify to get what I'm looking for.
Okay.
Okay, so shall we move on?
Sure.
Are we done with Jason?
I think so.
Okay. Next item on our agenda is sidelight variance. That was requested by Kay Cunningham in lieu of the owner who is in Connecticut at the moment, so he went ahead and done this. What this applies to, it's a house and garage at 214 North Pecatonica Street. Existing is going to be demolished and a new house built on this property.
Is that the Warren Faulkner house?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
And with the situation come up, what Guy has noted, and he's been looking at drainage and the height of the new sidewalk and so forth. He's been working with Chad on that. But the existing, I think you have a drawing there of the existing buildings. I think the last thing on the email. Do you all have that?
I have
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can see that the existing plot plan shows that the house now is 20 feet from the lot line on Pecatonica Street, and our ordinance calls for 30. And the garage is 10 foot from the lot line on Runyard Street, and since it's a corner, our ordinance calls for a 30-foot setback. So is Junior done now? And looking at the plot plan for the new house, if Guy sets the house 30 foot from the lot line on Runyard Street, he would be 11 foot 8 inches from the south property line, which is well within our ordinance, and it's not a problem. But the problem comes in, and I had to commend Guy for bringing it to our attention. The building building plot that's involved here is fairly level. It has a drainage to the south, as is the street, but it is a higher elevation than the house to the south. The house to the south of that is built very close to the ground and has two window wells on the north side of the house. And Guy feels that if he maintains that 11 foot 8 inch side lot to get to 30 foot on the north side, that they're going to ultimately drown that building because of he has more roof line now to get water off of, and it's going to cause trouble with that guy to the south of him. So he's asked to move the house 10 foot to the north and give a 20 foot setback from Runyard instead of 30, and that would give him 21 foot 8 inches in there to build a swale to catch that any drainage going south and move it out to the east across the sidewalk and into the street. And that's the consensus of it. And Guy, maybe you want to add something to that.
I don't think Guy's in the meeting.
Well, I thought he was. Okay, he's not
Nope.
here. So the only tool we have to do this in the ordinance is a variance. And our variance is very strict, and if anything would come close to meeting it, it would be this. But it's not exactly a glove fit. Now, there's four conditions to a variance. One is that there's special circumstances that apply that does not generally apply other places. And this, I guess, would apply because it's a demolition of an existing structure that does not normally meet our existing conditions even under the old ordinances. And whatever's done would be an improvement. And the second condition of our variances is that whatever circumstances that the strict application of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of reasonable use of such land or buildings. In this case, it wouldn't. He could build it just exactly to our ordinances, but it would create a big problem for his neighbor to the south. And the third provision of the variances is that the variance granted by the Board of Appeals is the minimum variances that could accomplish reasonable use of the land or building in question. And the reasonable use is there, but it's not conducive to good drainage. And that the last section is it's not injurious to the harmony and general purpose, the intent of the ordinance. And I don't believe it's injurious, but it's better than existing and in harmony with the purpose of the ordinance. It's the 20-foot setback on Runyard Street matches the setback of the existing neighboring to the west. And I can't explain anything else. It doesn't meet the ordinance, but I think we ought to grant it.
Why is there a 30-foot setback on the north? Just because it's a street?
Yep. Every corner lot has
the front yard.
Has a 30-foot setback. Has 30-foot setback on each corner lot on both streets.
Okay.
And I can tell you one thing, living in that area before, there's water problems there already because the water table in that area is really high. And you dump more water on that house to the south, they're going to have big problems.
Well, Guy told me that he and Chad had been talking. Chad would like to make that, I don't know what the real nice word is, but the ditch that's in front of there, draining that whole area going to the south, he would like to make that a little deeper and keep the driveway a little higher so that he gets a better drainage.
No, I'm just saying that the water table in that area is really high.
Well, that gentleman, I don't know who lives in the house to the south, but I went over and looked at it, and those window wells are just even with his grass line. So anything that goes down there is going to go in there.
I'm not sure who lives there now either. It used to be Ed Fry, but I don't know if he's still there or not.
I understand what you're saying, Chuck, and it sounds like a good idea, but legally it doesn't meet a variance because you still can use the property. Simply speaking, they could have a house that's not quite as long and still have the amount of space they need on the south side to put the swale in and then also have the required setback.
But Bill, they could move that house farther to the south and do it and meet our requirements.
Yeah.
But they're going to cause a problem for that person in the south.
And I understand.
So then what do you want to tell the person to the south?
Well, they probably have to bring a suit against it. I agree. I think it's a good idea. It's just problem is it legally doesn't. It has to meet all four requirements, right, Mary?
That's correct.
And so we'd have to make a finding that without that variance, this property really has no use. So I'm kind of torn. I won't try to talk anybody out of voting in favor of it, but I'm just raising my problem with it because legally it has to meet all four, and I don't think it does. Even though I think it's a good idea.
I have the same problem, and the only way I could justify it is that it's going in the place of a existing condition that's much worse. And I know exactly what you're saying, Bill. They can change their house, but if I'm going to build a $250,000 house, I'm going to build it the way I want it, you know?
Yeah, no, I understand. And then the problem is once we start making exceptions from what the requirements are in the variance, it's a slippery slope. So again, I'm not going to try to convince anybody to vote no, but I don't know that I can vote yes. Just because I don't think it really makes it.
I don't like to do what you're saying. Just you got to do it for everybody. That's true, but in somewhat looking into the future, we're looking at redoing the zoning ordinance. And in today's market, I don't believe that we could continue to exist with the variances as we list them because nobody can really meet them.
I think that's state law.
I was just gonna say that that's not us, that's statute. That's language that's just lifted out of the statute.
I know, but how can we have such variances in all the other zoning ordinances around the area? Variances are granted every day, and they surely don't meet this one. I think we could be somewhat liberal, so that some conditions can be. What does Rockford do? You always see that somebody's getting a variance.
Again, I don't know the specifics on those particular properties, but they're following the same standards. And you can decide anything you want, but I think what Bill is bringing up, that if somebody challenges it, there's potentially a problem if you haven't met all the requirements.
But with our way our ordinance reads, they can build that house closer and cause a problem for that neighbor to the south. And what do you tell that neighbor to the south?
I understand.
I understand. I think it's a good idea, Randy. It's just I'm raising that issue because it unfortunately doesn't qualify. But I don't know that anybody would challenge us. You know, like Mary's, if nobody challenges us, fine. But we have to realize, I don't know that we've granted a lot of variances in the
We have
village.
not. No.
No, we have a lot of special use permits that we put lots of restrictions on, but that's different from a variance.
And I can also look at some case law just to see how strictly it's been interpreted when somebody has brought a suit, or if there are any special type of exceptions, at least that the courts have come up with, but they're certainly not statutory, because what you see is what's statutory.
Is Frank here?
Yes.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yes. You know, looking at this, my first thing is we really need the person that wants this done to address each of the four parts of the variances. When you go to the county, when you fill out an application, you have to explain to them each part of the variance and why you should get a variance. So it would be nice if they could make the arguments for us and say the reason why, you know, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 under variances would apply is the following, so that we don't have to think up their arguments for them. So that's just my first thought, is it'd be good for the homeowner or for Guy Cunningham to address each of those four things so that we have an argument that we can say, okay, yeah, we agree with that, or no, we don't. But Bill, I agree with what you're saying. Technically, you could build a house there. Technically, you can build it within our requirements. So a variance is not needed to build a structure there. Would it be helpful to have a variance? Well, yes, it would allow us to do maybe something that's better, but he doesn't, you know, that house doesn't have to be built with those dimensions. They could go further back into the property. They can go farther to the west and make a bigger house that way. So, I mean, technically, we don't have to grant the variance because they can still use the property to build a house and have a driveway and have a garage.
Well, if you go west, it doesn't help the drainage any.
Well, no, I'm not saying less. You know, you look at the drawing that he has, and he says it's 90 feet 4 inches from the driveway. You know, the house is 90 feet 4 inches long. Well, who's to say he can't go 80 feet 4 inches long, and then the house is going to be however much wider to still get the same square footage. There is, and he's got plenty of room on the east because we only have to go. I thought it was 20 feet on the east, not the 30 feet that he's given us.
It's 30.
It's 30.
30 off each street.
Okay.
Now, Mary,
because ours-
we put the recommendation and then the village board has to decide?
Not with variances. Variances is the one thing that the zoning board does.
Oh, I thought the only thing we did was the requirements on the special
Nope.
use.
Nope, that's the one thing that the zoning board does is you grant variances. Everything else is a recommendation, but this one you
Okay.
grant. And special use conditions you deal with.
Well, a little history of this. It's the house is being built by the daughter of the original owner,
Former owner.
named Sandry Faulkner, and her partner are building this. And according to Guy, they've spent a year designing this house exactly how it is. And I doubt if they'll want to change it. Whether that makes any difference or not. Maybe they just won't build. I don't know.
That's not our issue.
Or
Right,
they
it's not-
try to convince us that somehow you have to have that house to make the property useful. I kind of like Frank's idea of have them try to give us something, because I feel I'm being completely arbitrary if I vote yes.
Yeah,
You know,
I again think
to give me some case law or something. I think it's a good idea. I'm just bringing up front that I have trouble voting yes, even though I think it's a good idea.
We can try it.
Irv and Randy, Dennis, what do you guys think? If the votes are there.
I mean, technically they could build it that way. They want it. It's just going to dump a lot of water on that house to the south.
Well, I don't know about that, because I think the people to the south might be able to enjoy the problem, you know, because now you're changing the water flow. I don't know that. It creates a big legal issue, yes. But, you know, what's the argument that you can't use the lot without the variance? You know, the
There
lot
is
doesn't have a value. It's taken away the people's property.
No,
I
you
think
can
they should be
use it.
given the
can use the
four.
lot.
They should be given the four requirements, and they should make an argument as to why, you know, they should be granted it based upon why there are special circumstances, and you know why the variance is the minimum variance that would be accomplish a reasonable use of the land. They should outline that and why, and kind of put it in terms of they're building a minimal structure, and so anybody trying to build the same structure is going to have difficulty unless they get a variance. I mean, that's the kind of argument they would need to make to us to say that it's not just this design, but any design is going to run into these problems. And that's what we need to hear is, if that's the case, fine, then it's something stronger to vote yes, we'll give a variance. But I think it's up to them to give us those arguments.
And maybe, Randy, they could pull in the topography of the land causing a problem to the people to the south, no matter what type of house you put on. I don't know. I just know the law is you have to meet all four. And when I first run it today, that was the problem I had.
I don't see how that exercise is going to make us change our mind, because they're not going to meet the ordinance no matter what.
Well, if you think he does, you can always vote yes. I mean, that's just my opinion, and I would
Oh,
rather give it to them. But, you know, maybe you think that you can't use the property. Maybe they can give you an argument that you buy, that you can, in good faith,
Right.
say, yes, you need that variance for that property to be useful. Mary?
I absolutely agree, and I think it has to come from them, because otherwise you're potentially making a decision without getting all of the facts or potentially the facts. And they may have nothing to say. We don't know. But that way it's based on them having given the information. And Frank's absolutely right. At the county, the people come forward with the information. The board doesn't create the case for them.
And Guy can always come up with something too.
Correct.
Yeah, whoever's petitioning for them, whether it's an attorney, whether it's the builder, whether it's the property owner, whoever the petitioner is the one that needs to do that. And just comes back to my argument that we need to have these forms prepared and have them filled out so that we're not sitting here doing this. I mean, this should be on a form presented to us right now where we can see all four factors of the variance already written before we even have our meeting. We should have been reading those four arguments.
Does the village have those forms?
No.
No, I have those forms from the county. I did talk to Mary about it a while back.
How can we ask them to do something that we don't have forms for?
No, exactly. No, but I'm just saying that this is something that we need to move forward on. And I'll talk to Kelly about this because I think it's something that we can get her started on. But I'm just saying that it would streamline all of our meetings from here on out if we could do that. So I think this is showing us why we need to have these forms in place.
I agree.
Well,
when's the Unified Development Ordinance supposed to be done?
It's done.
It's been passed.
It's done.
That was done at the end of 2019, or I believe.
But that contains the same language, Randy.
Well, 4 votes pass the variance, Mary? Are there 7 on the board?
This is, I'm just looking. Yeah, there's nothing referenced there for a supermajority. Now to the zoning, that would require a supermajority if there were a certain number of objections from the surrounding property owners, but we don't have that with the variance.
So is it a majority of the board, or are there 7 people on the zoning board?
Yes.
That's correct, yes.
So even if Dick was here, 4 would pass it.
Correct.
So I guess I offer to the 4 that have, Randy, Irv, and Dennis, if you guys want to say what you think, and then if Chuck wants to call it for a vote, if you got the votes, you got the votes. I've said what I'd have to vote no, I believe. I think I see where Frank's going, but there's still 4. I think Chuck wants to let it happen. Randy wants to give the variance. If Irv and Dennis, if you got the votes, Chuck, call it. Or take Frank's suggestion and have the property owner give us something. They might be able to come up with something to get 4 votes fairly easily. I don't know. I don't want you guys from doing it if you want to do it, because I think it's a good idea. You just can't vote yes.
And I just think you'd be on much more solid legal footing if we at least had something from the property owners.
I agree, Mary.
Just, saying, okay, we like it, so we're going to vote for it.
Well, I would like to hear from the property owners and possibly this neighbor to the south that is going to be most affected by whether this ordinance is granted or not.
Is that you, Dennis?
Yes.
Okay, I couldn't tell. Thank you.
Well, I don't think he's going to be affected except if he gets the water, And I honestly don't know why he doesn't get water now, and maybe he does, because the land.
I'm sure he does.
That this property sits on is probably Up at the foundation of this old house to his foundation, it's a good 12, 15 inches higher than his is now. But regardless, he has rights, and we should be respectful of that. And I don't want to do anything that's going to cause his problem.
At this point, I would agree to the variance. I understand the legal issues, but I would agree to the variance.
Well, I think, listening to this, I know what the ordinance says, and I, in my mind, tried to justify it, and I can't really get it. You can't make any of the requirements come out that way. So the best thing we can do, I guess, is the suggestion that was made that we get something from the owners, how they could justify it, and then meet again. But we're in a case right now, and this is not our problem if they want to start digging the basement,
Wouldn't
I
this
guess I would
require
give
some
them
type of public notice? Wouldn't neighbors have an opportunity to come in and address the request, or is it just through the agenda that they get notice?
We don't have that, Frank, in the ordinance itself, but that was one question mark that I wrote because, like I said, we don't do variances in the village of Winnebago. We haven't. And I just know at the county that there are hearings about that, but I can't tell you that that's statutory. So that's also something that I would want to confirm one way or the other.
Right, because I just don't feel, I don't feel comfortable when we've got Jason and Teresa that have to have a public hearing because they want to put up lights and they want to change the zoning. That's fine. I understand that you want people to give input, but when we have a variance, to me that seems to be even stricter. And I would think that the same process would be taken where you would notify the neighbors and have a public hearing so people could come in and say whether they agree or disagree with the variance.
I also think it'd be safer, worst case scenario, they start digging the foundation and the people bring a suit saying the variance is not valid. Then
Right.
you got a big problem.
Right. So I would feel more comfortable if the people could actually address 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I don't mind setting it for a public hearing and having them give us 1, 2, 3, and 4 at that public hearing or ahead of the public hearing, saying here's what we have, and then we consider that at the public hearing or after it. If we need to do this more quickly, we could set it for a public hearing so that at our next zoning board we could address it and have the public
Chuck,
hearing
are you
5
gonna
minutes
talk
ahead
to
of
the guy
time.
Cunningham?
Pardon?
Or is somebody going to talk to Guy?
I can talk to Guy. I would talk to him and ask him to have the owners do what you asked. That's what the board wanted to do.
I would also suggest that Guy talk to the neighbors to the south and have them come in. If they're in favor of this, have them speak in favor of it too. They're the ones who are, if the neighbors who are all impacted are in favor of this, it might help justify something.
I think that would
Because
definitely be
quite
helpful.
often they're going to come in if they object. But if they come in and affirmatively state, we think this should happen for these reasons, maybe you can make something up to get within the 4 requirements, plus the affected people who could file a lawsuit are all saying they want it to happen. That decreases the chance of a lawsuit happening for granting a variance that doesn't meet the requirements. So maybe if Guy heard that, Guy could talk to those people and get those people on board to support it. That's what I would do, I guess, if I was representing the people.
Yeah, I like that suggestion.
I'll talk to him. See what he can draw out of them then. And then, we'll see if we can meet again.
Okay.
Okay, where are we? We got anything else? I believe not. Anybody got anything to bring up?
No, I'm just gonna hop on my bike and go over and look at that light. Looks dark enough outside.
I'll make a motion to
And I'll second that.
Who was first?
Irv
That was Irv, right?
was
Mhm.
Irv was first and Frank was second.
Okay, thank
Favor?
you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, see you later.
Bye, everybody.
All
Aye.
right, thank you.
Aye.
Good night.